Well, a few things came out of the kiln, so I have started at my pottery. And you can see I'm trying to show Jimmy a plate, but I think he likes his big plate better because it carries way more food. Silly Jimmy. Happy New Year to everybody. Today's New Year's Day, and I just got these things out of the kiln, so I thought I would share them with you. So Daddy's putting his potatoes on the little plate. So he's saying, "What? How come the plate's so small?" I'll have to show you the rest of the stuff that I made. Turned out okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. So my first few pieces of pottery were not done on the wheel. They were just pieces of pinch pottery. So that means I just took the clay with my hands and kind of pinched them roughly into the shape of the things that I wanted to make. And I hadn't yet attempted to use the wheel yet. I did use the wheel on this piece, but as you can see, it's like just absolutely huge and chunky. But I'm going to keep it because it's my first attempt. And you can see here, yeah, that's pretty rough. I didn't really have any finesse when it came to finishing these pieces either. So I just kind of painted them and glazed them and tried my best. This little plate's kind of cute. It's a little bit wonky, but cute nonetheless. And as I say, this was my first attempt at it, so I'm not unpleased with it, but I am getting better at it because I have started to use the wheel. And here's the frozen Charlotte. I'm absolutely tickled with her. I just have to cut that wire off. So she's got the glaze on her now, and you can see her little buttocks. And she's not exactly like a real authentic frozen Charlotte, but pretty darn close. I'm really pleased with her. I can't wait to get the second one done. So, and yeah, she was a lot of fun to make. She really was. And there's Jimmy wondering, what am I doing? And he's eating off of that tiny little plate. So funny. It's just hilarious watching him. So I've got some pictures of what I'm doing on the wheel. So first of all, this is a full-size pottery wheel. So I take a little bit of water and I put it on the middle and then kind of wipe it off. And then I've got a little piece of clay and I center it and kind of slap it down. So that piece of clay is about the size of a golf ball. Pardon me that this is not as... it's a little bit blurry, so you kind of lock your hands together and press down and press to the side, equal amount of pressure with both, and that's how you kind of center it. Centering it I find to be the hardest part of it, so you got to keep on working at it. And then after I get it almost centered, then I kind of stick my fingernail or my finger around the edge just to kind of make sure that I've got a good seal on the piece of clay. And I find with doing this tiny pottery that I don't want the wheel going all very fast at all. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of putting even pressure on both sides, squishing it down in the center, even pressure on both sides, squishing it down in the center. And I'm trying to make like kind of a cone shape out of it. And then as soon as I get it where it's thin enough that I think it's going to be good for making a vase or a bowl or what have you, then I have to go into the center of it. So now I'm just kind of taking my fingertips and just kind of lightly forcing it in an upward motion. And every once in a while I'll stick my finger on the top just to make sure I've got the right shape that I want, and I'm using the sponge to dry it off just slightly because I had it soggy wet and you don't want it too wet. And I promise the next shot will be a little bit better. There you go, it gets a little cleaner. And so I'm just kind of forcing it up into kind of a dome kind of shape, or I don't even know the best way to describe it. And then I take a tool and I poke it into the center, and that will hollow it out. So you can see it's now got a hollow divot in the center of it. And then I just kind of keep on working with it. There's sort of like the flat end of the tool will kind of, I can use that to cut the piece off. And then I can use the pointy end of the tool, which is just like a pointer tool, to stick inside of it. And that will kind of make the inside a little bit deeper. So that was my first attempt. And then here's number 2. As you can see, I'm just trying my best to make a little bowl type of shape. Now, the thing with doing this pottery is if it looks really rough when you cut it off, you don't really have to worry about that, because once you take it off of the wheel, what you can do is wait until it's kind of half dry. They call it leather dry. And then you can trim it up and sort of sand it or wet sand it. And it will take shape after the fact. So, that was my problem when I first started doing it. I thought every single piece of pottery had to look pristine and perfect before you took it off of the wheel. Otherwise, it was a failure. But I found out that no, that's not really the way it works. When it comes off the wheel, it can look a little bit rough. And as long as you got the basic shape that you want, you can actually go ahead and sand it and wet sand it and cut the bottom off with a razor blade and make it perfectly level. And if the top of it isn't perfectly level, then you can sand that so that it is level. You can see I'm taking a little piece of wire and I'm cutting it off. And it's not going to be level at all, that piece, which is just fine, because after the fact, you just make it perfect, or as perfect as you possibly can. So you can see here I've just got a minuscule little piece of clay left on the wheel, and I'm not working that wheel very fast at all. And I've heard that those little tiny USB pottery wheels are no good for doing miniatures, that they don't have enough torque. But you know what? With my experience doing this, I'm not using a lot of torque. As you can see, I mean, that wheel's not spinning around very fast at all. So I think it might be worth the investment. I mean, I don't think the very cheapest one that's only $30 on Amazon would be worth it, but maybe one in the $50 or $60 price range might be worth it. And it's not terribly messy if you're not, throwing big gigantic pots. You can see the wheel is still relatively clean and it's not all that hard. So there you go. I've already got 3 or 4 pieces already made off of that little golf ball sized piece. So, and I'm just putting them to the side on a board, and I will let them dry for quite a while, or maybe even put a fan on them to speed up the process a little bit. And you can see now I'm trimming it. So I've got a razor blade that I'm using to trim the bottoms of it, and you just got to keep on working with it until you get it nice and level. And it's really not that hard to trim it. So my daughter's filming, and my hands are probably a little bit in the way, but so this is kind of like a deep bowl that I'm doing, and you can see how uneven the bottom is, but like no big deal. You just keep on working at it until you got it level, and that's all there is to it. So the finishing part of it is a lot a lot easier than what you might think. So look at those little pots. They're pretty good. And that little scour pad or scotch pad is just slightly damp, and just use that to sand off any imperfections. And yeah, so there's the pieces that I did today. So not too bad. I think they turned out pretty good. And then these are the pieces that I did the other day. They're actually in the kiln right now. So they were still in what they call greenware, so they hadn't been fired at all. And I painted them with some underglaze. I put little flowers and whatnot, and then I made a sugar bowl with a lid that says sugar on it. And you can see there in the background it's got a blue bottom and a red top, and then it says sugar. And then in the foreground is the little red, white, and blue lid for it. And then there's a little vase that I painted little flowers on in underglaze. So when these come out, see, these are all done in underglaze. So when these come out of the kiln, they'll be 25 to 30% smaller than what they are right now. And that underglaze will be baked right onto them. And then all I have to do is put clear glaze on them. Now here's some that I did with red clay. This was my very first batch that I did on the wheel. And those ones I will be putting solid glazes on them. So some of them are pretty good. Some are not so hot. But as I say, I'm very much a beginner. And then I made this little Roman statue head. Look at the eyes on him. He looks a little bit like Pee Wee Herman, doesn't he? Pee Wee Herman with a Roman nose. So I can't wait to see what he'll look like. I'm going to glaze him in white. And then I showed you these in my last video, but I did also make 2 bookshelves, and I haven't decided yet. They are actually in the kiln right now as I speak. So I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to glaze them or if I'm just going to bring them home and paint them with acrylic paint and then dry brush them. So I'm actually excited. I made 2 bookshelves and I also made 2 fireplaces. So I can't wait to see how they turn out. So right now they're in the kiln, and you know, there's no rhyme or reason to how these things turn out. Sometimes they turn out, sometimes they don't. So you just don't want to get you know, your heart broken if something gets broken in the kiln or if they don't turn out the right color. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to help support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/LisaDobo. I'd like to thank everyone that has to help support my channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com. It's appreciated more than you know. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. It's free of charge and it really does help my channel grow. And I'd like to thank everyone for watching my video today. And once again, Happy New Year and have the best day ever.